I can't believe I'm even doing this video. I'm sitting here watching this Showtime card while on vacation, man, watching Terrell Boucher versus Jamonte Clark or whomever. And I hear Al Bernstein talking about the man Marvin Hagler. So I continue listening to the broadcast, man. I find out that the man Marvin Hagler has passed away, man. Oh man, I'm doing this video with a heavy heart because, man, Marvin Hagler is my all-time favorite fighter, man. He is the first fighter I used to look up to as a little kid, man. Fighters before I even knew who Mike Tyson was, before I even knew who Pernell Whitaker was. There was Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns. The first fight I've ever witnessed as a little kid. You know what I mean? The bald-headed dude versus the tall, lanky dude with the gold trunks. That's my first memory and recollection ever of boxing. And I found out that the man Marvin Hagler has passed away at the age of 66. Now I go on to Google, I look it up, see whether Al Bernstein, what he's talking about, and for sure, man, his wife, puts it out there on the man Marvin Hagler's Facebook fan page that he's passed away at the age 66 at their home in New Hampshire. Wow. Cause of death unknown as of right now. But Jesus Christ, 66, man. Marvin Hagler was a young man. All his peers are still around. That's how you know he's a young man. Duran, Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns. Wow. See, man, when I was a little kid, man, I grew up in Boston, man. The man Marvin Hagler was a god in New England, man. Brockton, Massachusetts' finest. You know? Marvin Hagler is one of the greatest fighters ever. To me, the greatest middleweight of all time. If it ain't Ray Robinson, then it's definitely the man, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. You know, the guy had to come up the hard way to earn his rep, to become the best fighter on the planet. You know what I mean? Didn't go to the Olympics. Probably got like $50 in his very first bout, in his first fight. You know, had to fight in little gyms in Brockton, Mass. You know, home of the Brockton blockbuster Rocky Marciano, but it's also home of Marvin Hagler. Yes, I know the man grew up in New Jersey, moved to Massachusetts as a youngster, as a teenager, but Jesus Christ, man. The greatest switch hitter of all time. This really pains me and hurts me to even do this video, you know. Marvin Hagler, man's skill set was one of a kind. A switch hitter, a guy who could box, who could brawl, a guy who's relentless pressure, a guy who had every single fight he had in his title defense, except the Ray Leonard fight, was a stoppage. Wasn't taking no shorts, wasn't leaving nothing in the judge's hands after being robbed numerous times in his career. Finished his career with what? Was it 3 losses? With over 50 wins. Marvin Hagler, man, is that dude. Best believe. A few days ago, they were talking about Marvin Hagler's great fight versus John the Beast Mugabe. Yet another fight I remember as a little kid. My pops was a student and my mom's, you know what I mean? They were students in Cal Berkeley, you know what I mean? And, you know, them being from Kenya, my pops had a friend from Uganda. And this guy was in love with the guy called John the Beast Mugabe. He would always talk about him and mention him. And we watched that fight with John the Beast Mugabe versus Marvin Hagler. And sure enough, what it turned out to be a classic. You know? The anniversary of that fight, I believe, 35 years ago. And not to mention the very first broadcast ever on Showtime Championship Boxing. The very first fight they've ever showcased was Marvin Hagler versus John the Beast Mugabe. This right here is the most painful RIP video I've ever had to do while I have this boxing channel. You know, we've had numerous people passed away. When I first came on the scene, the first RIP video that I did that really hurt me was Muhammad Ali. But Marvin Hagler, for sure, without a doubt, is somebody who I grew up to, looked up to, was a fighter I admired and adored because of his never give up attitude. A guy who came up the mud to reach the pinnacle, the peak of boxing. I don't care what nobody say. He won that fight versus Ray Leonard. Still, look, man, you know, B March Boxing got a controversial decision series. I still never even done a video on that. For most people, it's probably the most controversial decision in boxing history. But that's a fighter who I just hold dearly. Pernell Whitaker and the man Marvin Hagler, my two favorite fighters, have passed away within the last 2 years. 66 years old, man. He's a young man. And if I know anything about Marvin Hagler was a clean fighter, you know? A guy who respected the sport and gave the sport everything he got. Retired in 87, went to Italy, got the F up out of USA because of that dodgy decision he felt he got against Ray Leonard. Became a movie star in Italy. And wow. This is tough, man. But just gotta give a big rest in peace. Rest in power to the man, marvelous Marvin Hagler. To me, the greatest middleweight of all time. Skill set was out of this world. Not to mention all the stoppages he had in his title defenses. Go look how the man got his first world title in England versus Alan Minter. And tell me if that guy doesn't deserve everything that came to him as far as props, accolades, and just being the man. Marvin Hagler. I remember as a little kid those commercials that Charles Barkley used to do later on. What do you call them? Was it Right Guard? The the deodorant commercials where Marvin Hagler is like kind of like in a old English suit, like them fellas in England back in the day who be hunting foxes and stuff. And Marvin Hagler was a superstar, man. Like I said, a guy who didn't come up like Ray Leonard, a superstar out the box, a guy who had to earn all his stripes. Rest in peace to the man, marvelous Marvin Hagler. Big ups to Mike 104. He's in the chat. He says his fight, damn son, he fights just for the opportunity to fight. Respect to marvelous Marvin Hagler. Absolutely, man. Big up Mike 104, man. Thanks for coming through while I do this painful video, man. Marvin Hagler, rest in peace. I'm on vacation, but I'm going to definitely watch as much Marvin Hagler fights as I can. All his great fights, from the fights with Ubligamis Fagamanos to the guys, Mustafa Hamshaw, to the fights with Alan Minter, and everybody knows about the Duran, Tommy Hearns, and the Ray Leonard fight. Go watch them fights. Willie the Worm Monroe, Benny Briscoe, Vito Antuofermo, all these great fights, man. B March Boxing, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.